Do I sound like I'm joking? Do I sound like I'm playing? When you look into my eyes, you understand what I'm saying? Let me say it to you slowly, and it may sound scandalous. I don't think that you can handle this.
Once again, we are on. I am the Mojo King. He is the great Donnie Oooh. And together we are Hidden Gems Football, brought to you by the mighty 19 Media Group. How are you today, Donnie?
I'm pretty good. What up, people? How's everyone?
Yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. I personally am a bit overwhelmed by all the sports happening all at once. We have the NBA kicking off. We have MLB playoffs. We have the CJ Cup, if you're a golf fan, Hidden Gems Golf. And of course, we have week 7 of the NFL. Lots of action. Great time of the year for a sports fan. A little bit tough for a sportscaster, though. Sports podcaster like us. All right. Let me give everybody a little brief breakdown of what we have here today. The podcast will be broken down into 3 sections. Section 2, we will talk about this upcoming Thursday night game. We will discuss what we think will be the keys to the game and maybe make a prediction or 2. Section 3, we will turn our attention to the Sunday games, who are our sure thing, can't lose selections for the week. You can be pretty safe that I'm going to have to look at Tampa Bay again. It makes me sick. But anyway, we have lock-in. We will lock in on some survivor picks, and we'll see if Donnie could keep his long shot streak going. But before that, Donnie will tell us what caught his attention this week. So Donnie, tell us your one big thing.
I swear this is going to be like a contradiction because it's more than one thing. It's like a myriad of things, but I'm going to combine it into one thing. And that thing is the subpar play by multiple quarterbacks that we had a lot of high expectation for during the offseason. You have Kyler Murray in Arizona. You have Tampa Bay with Tom Brady, doing disappearing acts. But I'm going to focus in on 2 individuals, and that's Russell Wilson in Denver and Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Russell Wilson in Denver, and maybe more of a microscope has been on his performance because I think out of their first 6 games, like 4 of them have been in standalone games. They've had 2 Monday night games. They've had a Sunday night game. They've had a Thursday night game. And coincidentally, in all those games, Russell Wilson has sucked bad. Denver is 2-4. And the problem with Russell Wilson in Denver right now, to me, Denver brought him in to be the savior. They have all these young skill positions. You have 2 great wide receivers. You have Judy. You have Courtland Sutton. You had Williams in the backfield before he got injured with a torn ACL. And you have a stout defense. All this franchise has been needing for the last, 6 years since Peyton Manning left? Has been a franchise quarterback. And everybody was saying, shoot, and when Russ is in Seattle, let Russ cook. Well, right now in Denver, Russ looks cooked. Like this past week, and I'm just going to focus on in this past week. Russell Wilson in the first half was 10 for 10. Do you know what stat he ended up the game with? 15 of 28. That means in the second half, he was 5 of 18. This is who y'all paid $200+ million for? But my biggest problem with Russell Wilson is the lack of engagement. He looks detached. He looks like he knows that he's not worth what he's being paid for. There's multiple times on Sunday where you saw like a little glimpse of the old Russell where he's like maneuvering in the pocket, but it almost looked like he was afraid to pull the trigger even by throwing the ball or scrambling and running. The week before in their loss against Indianapolis, you had, I believe, who was it? KJ Hamler that threw his helmet down at the end of the game because he felt that he was wide open and Russell missed him. You have multiple times that he's trying to connect with Judy, and Judy has no idea that the ball was coming in his direction. You know, a lot of people could say it's Hackett. Hackett to me is going to be a one and done, but the bigger picture is this franchise. They invested so much into Russell, like I said, $200 million, that it cannot be a one and done with Russ. They're pretty much stuck with Russ for at least the next 4 years. The cap hit would be so large that it would cripple the rest of their team if they decided to move on from Russ. Last bit. Now, I believe either Monday or Tuesday, Russell Wilson went for an MRI due to a sore hamstring, and maybe that explains why he looked so tentative this past Monday night, perhaps. But we've had 2 weeks ago, he went in for a procedure on his throwing shoulder. Now he goes for an MRI for his hamstring. I don't know. You have any thoughts on the Russell Wilson situation? Because he looks cooked.
I'm hoping it's injury related, because his stats looked bad the end of last year too, but he had the hand injury. It's possible that he just fell off a cliff. I tend not to think so. I think coaching may be a bit of a problem. Learning a whole new system. Russ has been with the same coach the whole time, so I would give him some leeway with that. But he's looked terrible. I don't really have much to say with it, because I don't understand it. I don't understand what's happening there. In my head, I feel like he's going to turn it around a little bit, but getting a little bit better is still not going to be good enough. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens there.
Hopefully they would get it together, but right now it looks bleak. Now, my other quarterback in turmoil is the aforementioned Aaron Rodgers. Some called him the CM Punk of the NFL, which I actually agree with, because I'm the one who coined that phrase. But that's neither here nor there. Aaron Rodgers this year, his team is 3-3. I believe there was a stat. This is the first time they've been 3-3, 6 games in maybe the last 5 years. Also, Aaron Rodgers came into this season with a new contract, coincidentally. A new contract that, prior to it being signed, he pretty much held Green Bay hostage on whether he wanted to stay or he wanted to leave. By the time he eventually signed that contract, his number one wide receiver, who they're desperately missing right now, in Devontae Adams, said, you know what? Good. You signed. I don't want to deal with this franchise tag. Trade me. He went over to Las Vegas. There's a big problem, because Aaron Rodgers is so stuck in his ways. To me, this is my editorial. He's so stuck in his ways, and he's so arrogant that because he feels that his natural born talent is good enough to just roll out on the field and just automatically get victories. He has a young receiving core that he's done nothing to cultivate any type of chemistry with. Do you know his go-to receiver up until this past Sunday's game, like I said in previous episodes, was ancient Randall Cobb? And Randall Cobb, once he went out the game with an ankle injury, effectively the game is over. Because my New York Jets are Jets, and this is not to get into them, but they had no fear on anybody on the outside. That, combined with Matt LaFleur deciding against establishing the running game when you have Aaron Jones and you have A.J. Dillon in the backfield. Why did they not go to the running game? Why are they not leaning on the running game until the receivers get up to snuff? I believe it's Aaron Rodgers' problem. I feel that him not participating in the off-season programs, yes, I know he's a vet, him not playing any preseason games, and pretty much him looking down his nose at his young wide receivers every time they drop the ball, every time they run the route not as precise as he would like it. They're running back to the huddle, and he has this look of disgust, like, to borrow a phrase for all my wrestling fans, I'm tired, I'm old, and I'm dealing with freaking children.
All right, so Adams is gone, right? Now look at the wide receiver core that they left for him. Sammy Watkins, who's out with a hamstring injury. Christian Watson, rookie, speed demon, also out with a hamstring injury. And I think he was injured the last couple weeks while he was trying to play. As you mentioned, old man Randall Cobb, who last report that I saw, they expect him to be out for at least 4 to 6 weeks. And then Alan Lazard. Now, Alan Lazard is actually the only Green Bay receiver this season that's had a 100-yard game. There's no way in the world he is a number one. So literally, the only receiver that they have that they could put to any degree is Romeo Doubs. That's a lot of pressure to put on that young man in year one. You were talking about Aaron Rodgers looked like he wasn't in the game. I put that on the fact that when he would do his little scrambling things, he always knew that Davante Adams would find a spot and Aaron Rodgers would know where he's going, that he could always connect with them. And you look a lot livelier and a lot more pep when you could make that little thing happen and make a big play happen. And I don't think he can do it with this wide receiver core.
While everything you said is valid about the receiving core not being up to snuff, you came into the season knowing that you have a lot of young, impressionable players. Pretty much the only receiver that he has any type of prior rapport with, sans Randall Cobb, is Alan Lazard. So don't you think it would be imperative, knowing you're coming into the season with a lot of young receivers, to get as many reps with those receivers and live game action? Which guy, Davante Adams didn't just show up on the Packers and instantly, yeah, it was quicker than normal, but it wasn't instant. That's what I mean about Aaron Rodgers being an abrasive personality, that it's actually, I think his ego is getting in the way of bettering the team.
I think with most superstar athletes, ego is a big thing. That's part of what gets them there. That also becomes a problem when they're on a decline or there's some type of issue. You know, we've seen it repeatedly. We've seen it. We've seen it with another Green Bay quarterback that might end up in prison.
Oh, the welfare queen?
Oh, yes, that guy. But, you know, I mean, we've seen it throughout. Switching back to your main subject, though, I have a question for you. So you mentioned Murray out in Arizona. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. I think you mentioned Tom Brady. That's funny. I already forgot Russell Wilson's name. That's how irrelevant he's been this season. Vegas still loves them when I look at the odds. And obviously the teams are a little bit different in different spots. But do you think there's a reason to have faith in them to, one, turn it around in season and also to make a possible run in the playoffs?
I believe out of the four that I discussed, I believe Tampa and Green Bay has the best possibility of getting into the playoffs. Arizona, I believe, is cooked, and Denver's cooked.
All right, so see, arrogant Aaron Rodgers is going to get somewhere. All right.
Yeah, first round exit.
Hey, all right. You're the predicting king, so I cannot say much. All right, let's move on to the second segment. We'll talk about the Thursday night game. That is the New Orleans Saints going to Arizona to play Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. The Cardinals are 2.5-point favorites. The point total is expected to be 44.5. That means if Vegas is right, New Orleans will score 21 and Arizona will score 23.5. Now, we always talk about injuries here. There are a ton of them, so I'm going to try to breeze through them really quick. On Arizona's side, Marquise Brown is out for 6 weeks. They just traded for Robbie Anderson to replace him. James Taylor is questionable with ribs. He hasn't practiced, probably not going to play. Third stringer Darren Williams hasn't practiced with a knee injury. He's probably not going to play. Eno Benjamin is James Conner's backup. He's been limited in practice with a foot injury. He is most likely going to play, but it's not a certain thing right now. If they all don't play, Keontae Ingram, the 6th rounder from this year, will start. He debuted last week, 3 carries, 7 yards. Also, on this team, their kicker is out. Matt Prater is out. Rodrigo Blankenship is signed in the practice squad and most likely to play this week. But New Orleans is running for the most injuries too. Jameis Winston was on the bench with helmet on for his first time in a few weeks, but he is still limited with the back and ankle injuries. He's limited in practice. He's still not expected to start. But Andy Dalton also has a back injury. He's been limited in practice. He is more likely to start than Jameis. I'm assuming if neither one of them start, Hill will end up running his wishbone offense. Wide receiver core, Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas are both not practicing and questionable. On defense, Marshawn Lattimore is also not practicing and questionable. I think he is not going to play. They did get one good piece of news though. Chris Olive, the 22-year-old wide receiver who caught 2 touchdowns the last time 2 times he's played, he is coming back. Whew, that was a mouthful.
A lot of injuries.
All right, a lot of injuries. DeAndre Hopkins is coming back this week, though. All right, before I hit with you with any more things, what is your take on this game?
This is another one of those games that I don't think I really want to look at. But being a professional that I am, I'll give it an honest watch. New Orleans, to me, they have a problem. Also, well, of course, with the quarterback situation. Jameis, even when he was healthy, he wasn't that great. This in a limited action. You have Dalton, who is what he is. You have Arizona, on the other hand, with Kyler Murray. Arizona normally gets out to a fast start in the season, and then they kind of peter out. So this 2-4 record after 6 games is very concerning because it's like I personally believe that the rest of the league has figured out Cliff Kingsbury's offense, and the only time they get any type of traction is pretty much when the play breaks down and Kyler Murray has to pull a rabbit out of his rear end. That's not sustainable. I've said that in the past. Hopefully with DeAndre Hopkins coming back, that'll give a little bit more structure to the offense, but more likely it'll just give him another outlet and make him want to muddy it up even more than they've been doing. Because their problem hasn't been moving the ball between the 20s. Their problem has actually been scoring points, pretty much converting in the red zone. Back to New Orleans. Their quarterback their quarterback situation is so messed up. Dennis Allen, to me, is not a good head coach. He proved that back in the day with Jacksonville. So just on the strength of that, I guess the lesser of 2 evils, I guess I would go toward Arizona because they're at home.
All right, so would you take them with the 2.5 points? So they'd have to win by 3 or more.
Yeah. I'll take them with the spread. Because, in reality, like we said before, since they're at home and they're only up by 2.5, that pretty much means Vegas is saying that they're favoring New Orleans. But it's pretty much a 1 point either way, so it's basically a pick 'em. So I'll just give Arizona the home advantage. Field goal win.
All right. Couple other notes that I had. The Cardinals are actually 0-3 at home this season, but they've played the Kansas City Chiefs, the Los Angeles Rams, and the Philadelphia Eagles. They've struggled on offense the last 2 weeks, especially. They scored 17 against Philadelphia and 9 versus Seattle. That one in particular is outrageous because the Seahawks had given up an average of 34.5 points the last 4 weeks prior to that. So how Arizona only scored 9, I do not know. Obviously, the Marquise Brown injury is huge, but DeAndre Hopkins coming back is pretty big. That's a big one.
And Lattimore's out.
Which also is huge. Honestly, I think it will come down to what Hopkins looks like in his first game back. He's 30 years old. He was injury-ridden last year, and he hasn't played yet this year. So we have to see what he can do. I think that will end up being the key to the game. I happen to have faith in him. And I happen to think that, much like my Aaron Rodgers argument, this will change Murray into a better looking quarterback, having a receiver that changes the game like that. So I am going, usually I'm like, oh, I'm not sure which way I'm going. I'm going with the over and I'm taking Arizona. I'm expecting this to be the week that they start looking like the Cardinals again.
One bit of pushback on your take with the over. I'm thinking, being the fact these Thursday night games have been horrendous, it's a short week. You have to incorporate DeAndre Hopkins into the lineup. You have to incorporate Robbie Anderson, new acquisition, into the lineup, and you have the questionable quarterback play on the other side. I personally would lean on the under.
I can see it. I just think that this is going to be the bounce back for Arizona. I'm leaving it at that. All right. We are moving to survivor picks. Donnie, I've been struggling here. Tampa last week really hurt me. I am down to my last single team. One. DraftKings has a new one for this week, though, that they're starting up. I'm trying to figure out if I feel like trying to extend this a little bit farther, but I'm getting a little frustrated here because the favorites have not been doing what they need to do. So we come to this week, and there's a lot of fuzzy games that I think are like, And upsettingly for me, the top game to look at in my eyes is actually Tampa Bay again. Tampa Bay is a 10.5 point favorite on the road again versus the Carolina Panthers. Now, the thing about the Panthers are their first quarterback is hurt, their second quarterback is hurt, and now their third quarterback is hurt. I don't know how much you know about Mr. Eason. I don't know much about him, but I'm assuming he's not that good since he's their fourth quarterback. What is your take on this game?
Tampa and Carolina, 11-point spread. And I really think that boils down to, like you said, the quarterback situation with Carolina, the coaching situation with Carolina, the receiving situation with Carolina, all adds up to they're not going to be able to score. And even though Tampa did lose against Pittsburgh, I don't believe their defense is going to take that much of a step down to allow Carolina to get any type of traction. So I think that's a pretty safe pick, Tampa, plus the amount of scrutiny that Tom Brady has received in him berating his offensive line, even though for their subpar play, even though he had subpar play, and he kind of, asked for a leave of absence Friday before the game to attend Robbie Kraft's wedding with a woman that's like half his age, but that's neither here nor there. I think all lines up for a revenge game, and Tampa is a pretty safe choice.
All right, next up, a game that is kind of, but all of these games are. The 2-4 Chicago Bears are going to New England to play the 3-3 Patriots. The Patriots are 8-point favorites with their backup quarterback. Donnie, what do you have to say about this one?
Chicago, they had a promising future, but I really believe it still comes down to Justin Fields not being able to consistently put the ball in the end zone. And him going against a Bill Belichick defense, like the last couple weeks have been kind of like a resurgence, but the strongest part of the Patriots has been their defense the last couple seasons. Ever since Tom Brady has left, that's been their strongest part. So just the combination of it's Monday night, it's in New England. New England has momentum. Justin Fields against a Belichick defense, I think that's a no-brainer. New England all the way.
Yeah, I mean, Belichick is a beast. So it's interesting because I think New England is a generally is a dangerous pick to have, but this seems like the week to take them. The third main target I would look at is the 2-4 Pittsburgh Steelers, who beat Tampa Bay, by the way. They are going to Miami to face the 3-3 Dolphins. The Dolphins are 7-point favorites. Now, what's interesting about this is Tua is coming back. Mike Tomlin said that Kenny Pickett, if he is playing, will be the starting quarterback. But I kind of have a feeling that they're not quick to bring concussion quarterbacks back right now, which means Trubisky may be starting this game. He is the one that got that last touchdown to defeat Tampa. Do you have any qualms about taking the Dolphins at home in this one?
Tell you the truth, this would be a game I would not touch. There's too many variables. You have Tua coming back, so you don't know how he's going to incorporate himself back into the offense. You have the variable on the other side, whether it's Trubisky or Pickett. Neither one of those quarterbacks instill any type of fear into you. But Tomlin, sans the Buffalo game, I think that was just a bad situation all around. Sans that game, Tomlin's going to keep the game competitive. His defense should be able to keep the game competitive, but the speed that Miami has on the outside with Hill and Waddle, I think it might be a little bit too much for Pittsburgh to hold. So I guess if I had to pick this game, which I would not, and it's Sunday night at home, I guess I would go with Miami.
Yeah, I think my take on this is that I just don't think Pickett's any good. Now, I don't think Trubisky's any good either, but I think Trubisky has a few years experience. When I say Pickett's not any good, I mean right now. If Trubisky ends up starting, I'm not touching this game. If Pickett starts, I might go Miami. Because I don't really trust Miami either, but I just don't think Pittsburgh will score enough if it comes down to it with Pickett in charge.
Agreed.
All right. Those were the three main games to look at, which is sickening. So I have three more for you. You tell me which one you find the most interesting here.
Gotcha.
All right. We have Houston, who is 1-3-1, going to the Raiders in Las Vegas. The Raiders are 1-4, but are 7-point favorites. The second game, the Atlanta Falcons are 3-3. They're going to Cincinnati to face the 3-3 Bengals, who are 6-point favorites. And my final one, the Cleveland Browns, who are 2-4, are going to Baltimore to play the Ravens, who are 3-3, and the Ravens are 6.5 favorites. So, Raiders, Bengals, Ravens. Who do you like?
Out of those three games, as much as I want to pull another rabbit out my hat and go for one of these, out of the way picks, I guess I would have to lean toward the Raiders, because even though the Raiders are 1-4, all four of their losses have been less than one possession. I believe one score. There's a lot of heartbreaking losses, and the Texans, they play valiantly. They are scrappy. They don't have the talent yet to consistently compete and actually win. They're the type of team that'll keep it close for the first three quarters, and then the better team will pull away. And I believe that's what's going to happen this Sunday. So out of those three games, I will go Raiders over the Texans. That would be Donnie's pick of the week.
It's tough to pick a 1-4 team. I feel like the Raiders could find a way to lose, but they're facing a 1-3-1 team. So another thing against picking the Raiders is that I don't know how much of a home field advantage they've had in Las Vegas. But with both of those things said, the talent is clearly there in Vegas. Like you said, they've been playing close games. It seems like they should be able to find a way to beat Houston, especially when Houston has to travel to them. I don't trust any of these games, honestly. I think if I pick a new one, if I do pick up a new roster, I will just go with Tampa Bay. Oh, actually, I could go with Tampa Bay on the team that I still have because I obviously didn't pick them last week. So I think I'm going to stick with Tampa. I don't really like these games. And maybe the Patriots if Pickett starts. You got another one?
Yeah, and it's going to bring me so much hate.
Oh, here we go.
Because I'm looking at this slate, and I'm not going to lie. What I want to be my go-to is to get the true hidden gem that's available for the survivor picks. And that train of thought, I'm looking at the quote-unquote underdogs. Well, what you would think is the underdogs. This one game in particular is Jacksonville and New York Football Giants. Jacksonville is actually a 3-point favorite because they're at home, which is pretty much a pick 'em. I can see the Giants stubbing their toe, riding high on 3-game winning streak, feeling themselves, going down to Jacksonville, early game against the Jacksonville team that's been struggling, but they do have talent. I can see Jacksonville pulling the quote-unquote upset. Matter of fact, that's Donnie's pick of the week. Jacksonville over the New York Football Giants.
All right. But the Jacksonville is the favorite, right? Because I think I did look at that line.
Yeah, technically it's the favorite.
Okay.
But
All right.
survivor pick, nobody's picking Jacksonville on a regular basis.
Nobody's picking them in that game. That I would say that's fair. Once again, I think you're crazy. But I thought you were crazy when you picked Atlanta over San Francisco too. So we'll see.
See, brother, low fat beats. I rep the A.
I gotta say, I think that this is your anti-Giant bias, and all you Giant fans out there should write to Donnie at Donnie Oooh on Twitter. All right, I think we're wrapping this up. I had fun this episode. I hope you guys listening did too. Go ahead, start the wind down, man.
Oh, you want me to start the wind down? Okay. Well, I'm going to be egotistical and talk about myself first. You can check out yours truly, Donnie Oooh, on multiple streaming platforms wherever podcasting is available for the Salty Thoughts of Donnie Oooh podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor.fm, amongst others. And you can check out the merch. Oh, yeah. Good pods. Good pods. I keep on forgetting about good pods. Good pods. But more importantly, you can try to get some merch at easytree.me/World of Donnie Oooh for everything Donnie Oooh, especially this nice little hoodie. And when you're talking about merch, I'm going to pass it over to the Hidden Gem Czar himself so he can talk about the 19 Media merch that y'all have on sale. Go ahead, Mo.
Yes, sir. I still do not know the website, but it will be below in the listing. Follow all things 19 Media. That is the family. We do have to bring up a very specific podcast coming up. The first episode is out. It's a limited series. It is called the Peelcast, and it is our friends from Gimmick Infringement with our friend from Mad Boosties and formerly of 19 Media, Jabari Davis. They've gotten together and are talking about Jordan Peele. Do you want to give some details to that?
Yes. Like you said, they're having a separate podcast called the Peelcast, and I'm going to read the description verbatim so I don't mess up this plug. Peelcast Part 1: Get Out and Religion is here. The guys welcome special guest Jabari Davis on Twitter at Jabari Davis NBA to analyze Jordan Peele's 2017 instant classic. Why was it so great? And when, if at all, they suspected Rose's true intention, and they would somehow try to integrate how religion is utilized in that flick. Please check them out on the Peelcast podcast, available where all streaming on all streaming platforms wherever podcasts are available. Check out Winchester, McDowell, and Jabari. You'll be glad you did.
Yes, sir. And if you happen to be watching us on 19 Media's YouTube page, you won't have to go far because they're probably listed right above us or below us. We'll be listed on top because we're number 1. But they're a solid 2.
We the ones.
All right, man. You did a great job with the back end of it. Can you please do the royal sign off?
Okay. Hip hop hidden gems.
Thanks, sir.
Hidden
I
Gems
appreciate
golf.
that. I appreciate that.
And Hidden Gems football. It's a part of the
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
This is a 19 Media Group presentation.
Perfect.
Do it again.
Perfect.
One more.
Perfect.